Hey everybody, this is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com. We're back with this week's new comic book reviews. Kind of a lighter week, not too bad. And to let you know, there were some books that didn't quite make it this week. We'll review those next week. And then there's one book from last week that we didn't get and we got this week. So sometimes the distribution kind of gets a little messed up. So we always try to catch up when we can of things that we miss, so you don't miss them. But before we get started, a real quick kind of recap of WonderCon. So WonderCon then was this last weekend at Anaheim Convention Center, and it was definitely kind of definitely more low key convention than we've had in a while. I mean, and this is, one of the problems since post-COVID is there really hasn't been many comic publishers there. IDW was really the only, the somewhat bigger companies that were there. Z2 was there, but that was pretty much about it. And also, Funko didn't show this year, but when you're destroying a bunch of pops because they weren't selling, that's not a surprise. So, and there was definitely a lack of like Funko Pops pretty much throughout the convention. So there wasn't, that's kind of definitely cooled off. But there were a couple things that I think really played into it. One, it was on Easter weekend. That always kind of throws a monkey wrench into, some people coming because of a holiday weekend. It also rained. We don't get much rain in Southern California, but when it does, everybody freaks out and everything. So I think that played into it. But really, I think the really big impact is, the economy is really rough and a lot of people are out of work or just really tightening their belt. And with tickets being kind of pricey and you have to travel, you might have to get a hotel room. It's really one of those things that really starting to affect people for their disposable income. So from what I understand from most dealers, they did fairly well. I think it's going to be hit and miss for some depending on what they brought. I did record some of the panels. There were some of them, unfortunately, got delayed in getting there, so I didn't get them. But hopefully I'll get those edited really soon and put those up. Overall, I think it was a good convention. Like I said, it was a bit more laid back, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think it also, people were posting pictures how empty it was. I think it was just one of those things. It's such a big convention compared to a lot of like smaller, say, local conventions that, it had a good turnout, but when you have a bigger floor, it's kind of less crowded. Saturday was definitely the busiest of the days, but Sunday wasn't too bad. Friday was probably the lightest day, but overall, I think it was a good show. I think it was just they had some really good guests. They just weren't big name guests. So I think that had something to do with it. I mean, last year they had Tom King, Mitch Gerards, Evan Doc Shaner, and a bunch of other people. They actually had really good guests this year, Gail Simone and Marv Wolfman, and Jimmy Robinson, but they just weren't big marquee names. So, but with that said, I think it was a good show. I had a good time, met a lot of people, you both old and new. I thought it was a good show, just a little more low key than it had been in years past. But I think it was worth checking out. The next one for me will be San Diego Comic-Con, which is really the big the it girl of the industry. So we'll kind of see how those things play. We won't have rain, we won't have a holiday weekend, but we will still have the economy and people with tightening their belt with money. So we'll see how that turns out. But anyways, let's get to new comics. First up this week, Red Coat #1, written by Jeff Johns, with artwork by Brian Hitch and inks by Brian Hitch and Andrew Curry. So this kicks off the Ghost Machine line of books. There was a sampler that came out, I think about a month ago. So it had short stories of these characters and some other ones that haven't. Geiger has already been published, but these are new books, and then there's more books coming down the road by different creators. So what this is Simon Pure is a red coat, and what it is this is towards the end of England trying to, take control over the U.S. There's the revolution. And so Simon, gets away. And so he goes into this church. He stumbles across this, sort of, ritual. And what it is it's a ritual on Ben Franklin. You're not quite sure what's going on. And then Simon, gets in the way. And what it does is this ritual was supposed to turn Ben Franklin into an immortal person, but Simon's the one that ends up, getting hit with it. So he basically is immortal. He can't die. When he dies, he comes back to life. So it's kind of his journey through the years, and we're not quite sure, basically what it is the cult, that was doing the ritual, has been looking for him for all these years. And so we'll see, they it's not so much of a spoiler. They find him at the end of the issue, but we're not quite sure, what, are they going to be able to exercise, do an exorcism on him and get it out of him? I don't know. It was an interesting story. I think, there's definitely a lot of exposition. You get to know Simon pretty well. I mean, he's not good and he's not bad. He's a bit of an idiot and a jerk, but he's ultimately, he's a likable character, I guess a likable idiot, you could say. Brian Hitch's art's really nice. I mean, we know that. It's off to an interesting start. I think the key is going to be, where's this going to go from here? Like I said, it's a good start. The art's good. I think it's worth checking out this week. Next up, we have Local Man Bad Girl Special, written and drawn by Tim Seeley and Tony Fleece. So this came out last week. We kind of missed it. I was able to pick it up from Tony at WonderCon. So I'm a big fan of Local Man. I will say I wasn't super enamored with this story. Certainly don't think it's bad. It's just very different, and I think there are good elements about it. I just don't know that it was like that interesting of a story, but let's get to it. So basically Inga, after the events of, basically destroying the town, is on the run. And so what it is Neon finds her. And so we get to learn about Neon's origin and how, her and Inga kind of relate to Jack. And also within her origin, we find out that the Sixth made all the men disappear, so that all the women heroes had to basically, defeat her and bring all the men back. So that's, kind of her origin. But I do think the interesting thing about the story is kind of the, what the kind of relationship between Inga and Neon ultimately becomes towards the end of the story, and I won't give it away. I think it was just, it was good. It would just, didn't necessarily bowl me over, but I think there's really good things about this story. I just, like I said, I wasn't quite as overwhelmed as the last special that they had, but it once again, I think it does play into the thing. I would definitely say this is not really super new reader friendly because of what the event's been going on. I think if you have been reading Local Man, I think it's a good read. It just didn't quite hit me. It might be one of those that maybe, sits well with me a little bit later. I liked it. I just didn't quite love it, but it's still worth picking up. I mean, I'm a big fan of Local Man. And it'll be interesting to see where the third story arc, I think that starts next month or the month after that. Where that goes. And then just to let you know, this week, the trade for the second volume of Local Man came out. So definitely pick that up. And I think the specials are worth checking out. Like I said, it wasn't my favorite story, but it was still good. Next up, we have Deadpool #1, written by Cody Ziegler, with artwork by Rogue Antonio. So basically, it's a Deadpool comic. If you love Deadpool, you're going to love it. It is fairly new reader friendly. I think the only thing that's kind of weird is his daughter is, taken over. Well, she's got a carnage venom in her. And so she's like this big dog that eats people. And, Basically he's on a job. He's on a job to make money. It kind of goes well, then doesn't go well, and then goes well. But he does run into a new villain called Death Grip. That ultimately tries to kill him. In the end, it was okay. It was just a Deadpool story. It wasn't terrible and it wasn't great. It was kind of okay, but it's just feeding the Deadpool because of the Deadpool Wolverine movie that's coming out this summer. So they're basically Marvel's gearing up to put out a bunch of Deadpool and Wolverine books, and the artwork's nice, but ultimately in the end, I don't think it's gonna. If you're a fan of Deadpool, you're gonna like it. I don't think if you like Deadpool but don't love him, I don't think it's gonna convert you into Deadpool lover. It's okay. It's just kind of average, and that's kind of its best and worst attribute is that it's just average. Next up, we have Rook Exodus #1, written by Jeff Johns and Jason, with artwork by Jason Fabok. So this is the second of the three Ghost Machines, and they're all written by Jeff Johns. So just be prepared for another one down the road. So what this is he was a farmer that fled. Earth was basically dying, and so he went to this planet Exodus. And what it is, they kind of terraformed it, with this world engine, and what it helped make the world livable and stuff like that. Well, the engine's failing, but what it is Rook is a foreman or a warden, and what it is, they have helmets that control like animals. So like he has one that controls birds. Then a friend of his has one that controls boars, pigs. And so what it is they're trying, Rook's trying to build a ship to get off the planet because the planet is dying. And so there have been other attempts at spaceships trying to get off, and most of them fail. So he's taken parts from them. But there's also kind of Wild Wild West thing going on with kind of people that have somewhat bad guys who've taken over, and then they've gotten helmets, and they there's a guy who we don't quite know who he is, but he runs the bear thing, and it's not looking good. It's an interesting story. Once again, excuse me. It's all exposition. It's setting the things up. I mean, Fabok's artwork is really, really gorgeous. It's a great looking book. And I think it's an interesting story. The question is, just like with Redcoat, where are you going to take this? Good first issue, worth checking out, setting up. We'll just kind of see where it goes, but it's off to a good start. I think of the, excuse me, the 3 books this week, I kind of like this one. I think this one had an interesting, post-apocalyptic world fiesta going. But I think, it was pretty solid. Next up, we have Shazam #10, written by Josie Campbell, with artwork by Emmanuel Lupacino and Mike Norton. So Josie Campbell, she did the Mary Marvel Shazam series last year. And so it makes sense that I don't know if she's filling in for Mark Waid or she's taking over the book, but either way, she's kicking off a new storyline. So the events of the last issue is that the house was destroyed by Black Adam and Shazam when they were fighting. And so Zeus had to repair the house, but what Zeus did is he gave all the gods like a portal to a dimension in the house. So when they open a closet door, there's like Zeus's place, and then you open another door and there's Mercury's place. So it's like the house is there, but it's kind of messed up at the same time. So they have to kind of, deal with that and kind of tell Zeus is, hey, it's great you rebuilt the house, but you really effed it up. That's kind of, so this is a two-part story. So we'll kind of see where it goes in the next issue. I liked it, I liked it as kind of a side story. Good thing is that Campbell kept the fun that Wade had been doing in the story and kept the humor and everything, which she did very good in the Mary Marvel book. And Lou Pacino and Norton's artwork is really nice. They, especially when you go to the other dimensions and stuff, they really, it's a fun little story. I'm enjoying it. It'll be interesting to see whether, she's just filling in or is she going to take over the book at this point, but we're not sure, but we'll see. But I'm still enjoying the book, and, it's not Mark Waid, but Campbell has definitely picked up the mantle really well with the story, and we'll kind of see where it goes from here, but I did like this issue. Next up, we have Sandman number 19 Remastered, written by Neil Gaiman, with artwork by Charles Vess and colors by Steve Oliff. So this is the famous Midsummer's Night's Dream story, which... on a side note, this was the first comic to win a Hugo Award for Best Story, not in the comic realm. And so after that, the Hugos changed the rules, so comics could not win for a story that wasn't a book or a short story. But anyway, so really the story behind this is Steve Oliff had painted the colors back in the day, and this was in the issue when it came out was one of the first computer colored books. Now it looked good back then, but he did keep all the color artwork that he had done, and he was the story goes that he was thinking about selling them, and then the idea came about, hey, how about rescanning the colors to remaster this issue? So that's really what this is. And the nice thing about issue number 19 was it was a standalone issue, so it's it was one of the short stories that Neil Gaiman did, and of course it's based on William Shakespeare's Midsummer's Night's Dream. So if you're a Sandman fan, I mean, we've bought Sandman so many times, but this one's really neat because not only does it remaster the color, which really looks incredible, it also in the backup does include some of the actual the original color, the painted color work that Steve Oliff did over Charles Vess's pencils. So that's really a neat little addition to this. So it's, once again, yeah, it's a reprint, but I think this is, really well worth checking out, especially if you're a Sandman fan. And it's almost, because it's really one of the most, one of everybody's favorite stories. Of course, it's a one and done story. So it's really worth checking out, and I think it's really nice to see the color really the way it was intended, which is kind of a rarity because colors usually get messed up when they're reprinted. So that's a whole nother story, but this one's well worth checking out this week. Next up, we have Geiger number 1, written by Jeff Johns with artwork by Gary Frank. So this is the third of Jeff Johns' books that comes out this week from Ghost Machine, and so I think it's fairly new reader friendly, but it would help if you've read the first Geiger stories. But basically what it is Tyreek Geiger, it's post-apocalyptic, has these radioactive rods, and he kind of turns in to well, he is a hero. And so what it is he's on a journey, and so he's also being hunted by the army, and of course they can track him because of the radioactivity. And so along the way, Nate, the nuclear knight, who is ultimately, he's fallen him from Las Vegas because he wants to be like him, but Geiger tells him, hey, I'm messed up. This is not something you want. So they go off on their journey. It's a first issue. It's very similar to Geiger if you've read it. I think it was good. I would have liked it to be a little more new reader friendly. But I think you can kind of jump in. I mean, Johns does give you enough so you kind of understand, who Geiger is and all that kind of stuff. So there's not, that, but like I said, it would help if you've read Geiger, which is a, pretty decent comic. And of course, Gary Frank's artwork is really freaking gorgeous. This one I would say was a little bit, not bad, but probably the weakest of the ones this week, only because it's kind of following up. So once again, if you're reading it as a new reader, I think it's a little tougher. The other ones, this is their first one, so you're kind of getting on board. But I still think it's worth checking out. But like I said, I would recommend that you probably would be wise to read the previous Geiger stories, so to kind of catch up to get up to speed on this one. But still worth checking out, just a little bit of caution on it. And finally, this week we have the Batman Scooby-Doo Mysteries number 4, written by Shali Fish with artwork by Megan Huang. So really, once again, I love this book. It's an all ages book. The stories are really simple. They're one and done. This story is about people in Gotham all of a sudden turning into gargoyles. And, it's really weird. And all of a sudden, of course, Batman and the Scooby gang are on top of it. And then you find out that it's actually it's Clayface turning in, he's turning into people and then turning into gargoyles. So, once again, it's all about robbing banks and stuff like that. It's pretty simple. Fish has been a regular writer on this book. He really delivers a solid story. Wang, I have never seen her artwork, but she does a really good job of capturing the, animation style that's needed for the book, and does some really, really neat stuff with the gargoyles and Clayface. So it's a really good looking book. And as a special bonus, there's an excerpt from, it's one of the DC young reader book, Dear Supervillains. So it has it's kind of a preview of stories from that book. So that was a nice little bonus. I mean, that book's been out for quite a while, but still worth checking out. I love those books, and I love Gustavo Duarte's artwork. But the main story is really the big win here. I'm never disappointed every month, and it's one of those books that just is a real joy. Not only is it a really solid all ages book, but it's fun for, fans of like Batman, the animated series, and Scooby-Doo, and, pretty much everybody. It's always well worth checking out. I love this book and look forward to it every month. That's going to do it this week. Like I said, there's a few that didn't make it in this week because of delays. But we'll get to those next week, just like we got to Local Man this week. We try not to miss the good stuff. As always, public service announcement. I get all my comics at Pulp Fiction Comics in Long Beach, California. Ryan Skinner runs a great store. It's a really solid comic shop. He has discounts on trades and graphic novels every day, and he has a really nice manga selection, a good all ages section that is really nice. And he also supports local creators by having their books and stuff on sale, and prints and things like that. And it's just a really solid comic shop, and Ryan loves comics. That's the other thing. It's great to have an owner that truly loves comics. But as always, support your local comic shop. They're the real backbone of the industry. So make sure if you order stuff, please pick it up, as soon as you can, because they have to pay for it ahead of time. But just make sure you pick up your stuff on a timely basis. That's really important. And as always, we end our show with be kind. Times are tough out there. Trust me. I get it. Things are shaky at even my work. But being kind to others, and really be kind to yourself. That's really the important thing, is to take care of yourself. I get it. Times are tough, but being kind is not only good for you, but for other people. And it doesn't take a lot of effort. It doesn't cost anything to be kind. So please take care of yourselves and take care of others if you can, when you can. So that's going to do it this week. Thanks for watching. As always, please like and subscribe and share our videos. It's always appreciated. Comments are always welcome. We've had quite a few new subscribers lately. Thank you so much for subscribing. Hopefully you continue to enjoy. And like I said, if you have any comments, just let me know. If how things are going. If you hate me, love me, well, don't hate me, but but anyways, take care of yourselves. Be kind. We'll do it again next week. This is Steven from PopCultureMaven.com signing off. Have a good week. We'll see you next week with more comic reviews. All right. Bye-bye.